Imagine your town decides to build a school, but not just any school, like the school. It's the kind of building that changes what a tiny farming community believes it can become. Before this, the kids, they're scattered across the countryside. You have one-room schoolhouses. You got still those like small wooden buildings, bunch of different districts, different teachers, different ages that are having to sit together. Some kids had to walk miles. Some they were riding in from farms. Some probably missing school because the weather was bad, the roads were worse, or because there's just work that had to be done at home. Then the town got an idea. What if we just bring them together? What if we build something bigger, something modern, something better? One school, one community, one place where the children of Bath can have opportunities that their parents never had. And the people, they vote for it. They agree to pay for it. The school goes up, the doors open, and kids fill the classrooms. The building becomes the center of the community. And then, a few years later, one of the men trusted to help oversee that school begins quietly hiding explosives underneath it. Not a stranger, not somebody just passing through town, not a mysterious outsider whose name nobody knew. A farmer, a neighbor, a taxpayer, a school board member, the school board treasurer, a man with keys, a man with access, a man who knows the building. And for months, while the kids are just learning right above them, Andrew Kehoe is preparing to bring the entire thing down. So let me ask you something, Meg. If I told you the deadliest mass murder at a school in American history happened in the United States, what year would you guess? Would you think recent? 90s, 2000s, somewhere in our lifetime?
I would say 70s.
70s? Because I think most people are like you, 70s, maybe 80s, 90s, 2000s. But guess when this happened? 1927. May 18th, 1927. This was the Bath Township in Michigan. And somehow, despite the scale of what happened there, most Americans have never heard the name. Have you? Have you ever heard this story?
No.
I haven't heard it until I went down a rabbit hole and started researching this on a long July 4th break. I mean, I haven't even heard of the town Bath. I know that I'm too big to fit in our bathtub, so baths are kind of out of the question. So when I started to research Bath, I don't think I truly understood Bath, right?
Right.
I mean, because if you reduce, I guess, the story into one sentence, I feel like it sounds impossible, right? An angry farmer blew up a school.
Yeah. I mean, it's a little wild.
It's a lot wild. But the sentence, I think, leaves out the town. It leaves out the children. It leaves out why the school mattered. It leaves out why the man responsible was allowed to move through the building. And it leaves out the part that I can't stop thinking about. For months, the children were sitting above explosives. I mean, they were going to class. They were opening books. They were maybe passing notes. They were getting yelled at. 1920s, they were probably getting beaten. They were laughing. They were complaining. They were eating lunch. They were waiting for summer. It was normal little lives as an employee of a school in a school district. This has to hit a little different for you, right? I mean, could you imagine your place of employment, your school, and somebody is just planting explosives in your daily life?
I could not imagine.
Thankfully, let's hopefully never have to imagine that. But I mean, I feel like this story, it hits home a little bit different because of your employment, right?
Yeah.
Man, turning a school into a bomb is disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. But either way, the voice you're hearing, sorry, how rude of me. I'm Matt, also known as Beard Laws. Joining me as always is the beautiful Dun Dun Queen herself.
Hello.
Meg. Less sunburned than me because she's smart. She's much smarter than me. She uses sunscreen. Anybody who's watching the video only, yes, I have this sweet Live Bearded Aloha tank and a terrible, terrible sunburn. I think it's getting worse.
It looks worse on camera.
Does it look worse?
I think so.
All right. I bet you it's going to hurt in the bath. Which we are going to head to a place called Bath. Not Bath, New York. Not England. Not even Bed Bath & Beyond, which is probably mostly Beyond. I don't know. I've never really been in one. We're going to head to the Bath Township, Michigan. A small farming community northeast of Lansing. You've heard of Lansing? It's where a famous college football team plays, I do believe. And I mean, this is, again, a lot of relatable stuff. Small town, boom, that's what your town's about. That's where we live. Farming, pretty prevalent up here. Michigan and where we live are not much different. We're almost on the same latitude as them. Wisconsin, same weather, same kind of people. It's weird how it works, right?
Right.
Because we're built different. But before we go any further, I do want to make something clear, all right? This has a lot of information and research. I don't want to rush this. So if we get into this, and next thing you know, I look at the clock and we're not quite there, Meg's going to make a decision on the fly. Do we come back for the part 2? Or do we just hit you with the conclusion? So we'll get kind of coming in here, all right? Because I really did build this out. I found a lot of information. I wanted this to be good. So we'll see where we're at. Maybe it'll be short. Maybe it'll be longer. Or maybe it'll be a part 2. All right, decision's yours, Meg.
Okay.
All right. Let's do this. Because I think if we want to understand why the story mattered, we have to understand what was really destroyed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Bath was small, very small. In the 1920s, this was a rural farming community. All right, it wasn't Detroit. It wasn't Chicago, which, if you had to pick Detroit or Chicago, who do you think has the better pizza?
Detroit.
Yeah, I don't really love the deep dish, but that's kind of a myth. A lot of Chicago people don't actually love it either. They like the normal kind of thinner New York City style, from what I've been told. But you have to imagine Bath, it wasn't some giant city where people could just kind of disappear into a crowd. It was the kind of place where people knew each other. That's a common theme in our episodes, isn't it?
Yep.
And, it's the kind of place where people know each other, at least knew of each other. I guess they might not know everybody, but hey, it's the Millers down the road, right? You knew the farmers, you knew the families, you knew who had money, you knew who didn't, you knew who, let's go with had a temper, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you knew who was behind on something. You knew who had a sick wife. You knew who was fighting with the school board. Small towns, they've always been like that. And, I mean, you work in a school, are they still like that?
Yep.
They sure are. The population sign, it never tells you kind of how many people know your business. That number is definitely much higher. And Bath, in the early 20th century, was built around farms. Families, they were spread across the township. Kids, they were living miles apart. And education looked very different from what we think of it today. And those kind of small rural schools scattered around the area, I mean, one school, what are they? The one-room schoolhouses, I think like a lot of Amish maybe still used.
Yep.
They were around. Then you might have a teacher who would be responsible for, children of several ages at once, which is unheard of these days, right?
Right.
For most standard classes. You're not going to have somebody teaching a kindergartner and an 8th grader in the same room.
Right.
Yeah, probably had one child that could be learning basic reading while another was working some math or arithmetic. They still call it that? Arithmetic?
No, not really.
Tell I'm writing in the 20s. The buildings, they were local. The districts were local. The schools were part of the little neighborhoods around them. And then America started to change. You had the progressive era, not the soup Meg, all right?
Okay.
And it brought a growing belief that rural kids deserved access to better, more organized education. Thank goodness for the progressive era for us, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Across the country, small school districts, they began to consolidate. And I want you to think, I mean, how many schools just in our area used to be separate schools? You know what I mean? Even the school that you work at, it's a pretty new school. It used to be a much smaller school in a different area.
Mm-hmm.
There was a bunch of different little schools all over. And then they started to combine them. So if it's happening here, it's happening in Michigan, Wisconsin, it's happening everywhere at this time.
Right.
And, it didn't make sense anymore at this time to have several tiny schools. That's just big, one big old school. I still think they should do that with more schools up here. But anyways, more teachers, more grades, more education, more resources. At least that was the promise. And Bath, they wanted in. So in 1922, they had a vote, and voters approved the creation of a consolidated school. The decision changed everything, because building a modern school, it costs some money, doesn't it? And then the town votes to spend the money. You can probably guess what comes next. Taxes. Everybody loves them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure I can hear half the people listening to this already getting angry. I mean, this has happened for hundreds of years now at this point. I mean, there was just a school district near us who's still arguing over the budget vote. That part of America hasn't changed, probably not going to change. But some families supported the school. Some, they saw it as progress. They saw that their kids were going to get a better education. They saw building that could bring the township together. Other people, they just saw the taxes. I mean, if you owned a lot of land, it started to pile up, and you got to think these farmers, they're probably kind of struggling anyways, you know? Land, I feel like, especially in the farming community, it makes you look wealthy on paper, but you're struggling your butt off to find actual cash, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can own acres, you can own equipment, you can have barns and animals and crops, but let's face it, I think farmers owe money everywhere. So the school became kind of two things at once. To some people, it was the future. To others, it was just a burden and an expense. One of the men who kept he resented, let's go with that, the expense was Andrew Philip Kehoe. Kehoe. How would you say that? Kehoe?
Okay. Say it one more time.
Kehoe.
Yeah.
Kehoe?
Sure.
Kehoe?
Go ahead.
Andrew Philip Kehoe. Now I need to say this before we really kind of get into him, right? There's a trap with stories like this, because after someone does something horrific, every single detail from their life starts to look like foreshadowing, doesn't it, Meg?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? All of a sudden you had a bad mood one time, and it's a warning sign. You got into an argument one time. Oh no, it was a warning sign. Strange habits. Oh no, warning sign. A neighbor might be like, I always knew there was something wrong with him, right?
Right.
But I mean, that's hindsight. Plenty of people are angry. Plenty of people hate taxes. Plenty of people lose elections. Plenty of people, they struggle financially. Plenty of people are pretty crappy neighbors. I mean, there's Netflix documentaries on, right?
Mm-hmm.
We've been suckered into that. My crazy
Time
ex-neighbor
and time
or whatever.
again.
But with all that being said, they just don't murder kids. So we're not going to sit here and pretend that everybody in Bath should have somehow looked at Andrew and predicted the future, right, Meg? There's no way they could they?
I don't think so.
No, they were just kind of remembering things about him that people remembered. But after May 18th, those memories became much harder to ignore. Let's talk about Andrew a little bit. Want to paint the scene, or should we skip right over everything? Do you want to know?
Yeah, paint the scene.
Okay, he was born in Michigan, 1872. He was not considered an uneducated man. He studied electrical engineering. He had mechanical ability. He understood machinery. He understood wiring. He was known as someone who could be meticulous, precise, particular. And that matters later, all right? Because what happened in Bath was not one moment of uncontrolled rage. It was planning, it was knowledge, it was patience, it was access. Andrew eventually married Ellen Price. Most accounts call her Nellie. And the two settled on a farmhouse outside the township of Bath. Now, Nellie's important, all right, Meg?
Okay.
And I do not want her to become one sentence in her husband's story. I feel like that's not cool, right? Because she's also a victim.
Okay. Yep.
For years, she suffered from pretty serious health problems. Her medical care was expensive. She spent time in hospitals. And by the mid-1920s, the Kehoes were under growing financial pressure. The farm debt was piling up, medical bills piling up, and Andrew's relationship with money appears to have become increasingly bitter. This is where the story enters his life in a much bigger way, because he became involved in local politics. He was on the school board. He became the treasurer. I mean, just think about that for a second, right? The man would eventually attack the school. He wasn't standing outside the system. He was right inside it. He was reviewing every expense. He was arguing it over spending. He was at every meeting. He had some legit authority, don't they? Sometimes those school board members, I mean, they have a lot of say on a lot of things, you know? And according to accounts from people who dealt with him, he could be pretty relentless about money. He objected to costs. He challenged purchases. He fought over every budget. Sometimes he was pretty aggressive. Now, if you stop the story right there, you do not have a future mass murderer, do you? You just got a guy that maybe is too by the book. Just, that's what he lives for, being a school board member.
You said he's the treasurer too, right?
Treasurer, yep.
Okay.
I mean, how many school board treasurers you know that are just like, hee hee, dee. Is that a good description?
Yeah.
All right. So, you have every school board member, probably in America, They should be fighting for rights. They should be fighting for what's best for the school. And there's always somebody that's going to be angry about a budget. Probably three, right? One of them has printed documents, one has highlighted the documents, and one of them has somehow been talking for way too long in a board meeting. It's not the unusual part. The unusual part is what the Kehoe's resentment later became, because the school was not just a building to him anymore. It became something he blamed. The taxes, they were hurting him big time. The district, he felt, was wasting money. The people running things were, in his eyes, incompetent. He was being treated unfairly. That appears to be the world that Andrew increasingly lived inside. A world where every setback had somebody else attached to it. And this is where Bath gets uncomfortable, because some of his complaints probably sounded ordinary, right? Taxes, they're too high. The school spends too much. The board's wasting money. The system's unfair. They're not frightening. People say them every day. But when you pile all that up, something dangerous can start to be resented when a person feels it for too long, right?
Mm-hmm.
It can turn a problem into an enemy. And once the school became the enemy, in his mind, the kids inside it somehow stopped being enough to matter. Because that's the part I don't understand. You can hate the taxes. You can hate the school board. You can hate the election results, right?
Mm-hmm.
But how the hell do you walk into a building full of kids and decide that they're the ones that are going to pay for it? I mean, there's no answer that makes sense in my brain. And
No.
maybe there shouldn't, right? His anger was not limited to the school. People around Bath remembered him as difficult, controlling, quick to take offense. I mean, there are stories about his treatment of animals, stories about his temper, stories about grudges. But again, we got to be careful, because some of these details were recorded after the attack in the 20s, when everybody was trying to kind of understand the man who had done the unthinkable, right? Memories sometimes can change after tragedy. People go back and search for clues, but a picture for him, whatever. He wanted control. He wanted things done his way. And, well, he didn't handle losing well. 1926, he lost an election for township clerk. For most people, losing a small town election, it's embarrassing. Maybe you complain, maybe you blame the other guy. Today's world, you just make a post on Facebook, move on. But maybe you stop going to that one diner you like. You don't begin preparing mass murder. The loss appears to have joined a growing list of his grievances on top of everything else. And, well, he was getting closer to the school. And this is one of the details, Meg, that I feel like makes the story impossible, right?
Mm-hmm.
He had access to the building, we know. As a school board member and someone known for mechanical ability, he performed maintenance and electrical work. He could enter areas of the school without automatically looking a little suspicious,
Mm.
It wasn't anything different to see old Andrew going down and fixing something. I mean, think how much trust is hidden in that sentence right there.
Yeah, right.
I know where you work, you can think of Five Guys. I'm
I
thinking
can.
Five Guys because I'm hungry, the food, but I mean, there's people that are in areas that are just doing what you think they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you saw a school board member working in the basement, would you panic?
If I didn't know them, yeah.
Well, you would know the school board members.
But I mean, yeah, if he had access and is frequently there, I guess I would think it would be okay.
Wouldn't think any different, like, oh. And maybe the first time you're like, what the heck is he doing down there? But then if it was just over and over, you saw the tools, you saw the wire, you saw boxes, you saw materials. You wouldn't assume he was building bombs, right?
Correct.
You'd assume the school board guy was just doing school board stuff. I don't know, fixing something, checking something, complaining about how much the stuff that he was fixing actually costs. And that normalcy gave him cover, because Bath consolidated school, and there was a crawl space and basement areas that were beneath the building. And over time, that's where he started putting things like dynamite, a surplus explosive called pyrotol, which was developed from materials that the military was kind of left around after World War I, and was actually sold for civilian uses because they thought civilians would use it to clear stumps and stuff like that, right?
That's scary.
It's farming country back then in the 20s. Explosives, they had legitimate uses back then, you know? So a farmer who was just buying blasting material in the 20s, it wasn't all of a sudden a red flag. Farmers had to get rid of those stumps, you know, clear the land, break the rocks. So he had access to acquire materials without the red flags going off, right? And piece by piece, he moved them into the school. I mean, picture that. Not because I want you to, like, picture some criminal mastermind. Trust me, I don't. But because the time involved to do all this is absolutely terrifying. I mean, this isn't one bad night. This wasn't just an argument that was followed by a sudden decision. He had time to stop again and again and again and again, right?
Mm-hmm.
Every time he entered the school, he could have stopped. He could have just been like, nah, this is stupid. But, I mean, he just kept handling the explosives. He would keep running the wire. And probably while he was doing this, he could hear kids above him. Every time he went home, every time he went to work, every time, you know, the days went on, he had another chance over and over to not do this. But he just kept going. And above him, the school just kept being school. Right? Man. What are you thinking, Meg?
That's scary.
It's beyond scary.
I don't like that.
What's that?
I don't like it.
I mean, nobody likes it, but it's just kind of mind-boggling. The school year's almost over, right? Summer was close. You remember the feeling because it just happened a couple of weeks for you. Everybody does. The warmer weather's starting to roll in. Classroom, they're getting tough to sit in. The kids are getting a little antsy, aren't they? Get windows open. It's hot in there. The teachers are like trying, but it's pretty tough. And for the children of Bath, the consolidated school, summer was so close. They just had to make it through a little bit more school. On Tuesday, May 17th, 1927, families across Bath, they went through their normal routines, right? The ones that went to the diner, their farm chores, the homework, bed. Parents went to sleep believing that their kids would wake up the next morning, just get dressed, eat some breakfast, go to school. Some kids probably complained about going, right? That's what they do. I stayed up too late. Oh, I don't want to go to school today. Some of them maybe went bed angry because they were fighting with a brother and a sister. Some, they went to bed excited about something that could be happening the next day. Maybe they get to see their friends, if that they haven't seen in a little bit. None of them knew what was beneath that school. You got an answer?
Yeah, but will it give it away?
Let's go for it.
It was like a year and a half.
Okay. That's good because, I thought it was 25, 26. This happened May of 1927.
So it started in fall of 26.
Gotcha. And then spring of 27. That's a way too long of a time to keep going through with it. Ugh. So we're there. We're at the day. Sunrise. It hits, Meg. There's no going back. But here's the thing. When the people of Bath woke up on Wednesday, May 18th, they did not know that they were waking up inside history. They just knew they were waking up. Farmers were doing chores. Everybody was just getting to their normal daily life. Okay, within hours, it's wild, right? There was a man who spent a year and a half preparing to destroy his community, was almost ready that morning. Within hours, though, his farm would be burning, his wife would be dead, and the north wing of Bath Consolidated School was gone. And even after the first explosion, he wasn't finished, because the school was only one part of the plan. And the people who came running to save the kids, they were part of it too. Ugh. So again, it's just a terrible, terrible morning that doesn't sit well with a lot of people.
I can't believe I've never heard about this.
It's crazy, right? What else do you think happened while I scroll through some of my notes here? I gave you a little bit of a prequel, right?
I feel like it was a lure 'em in situation with a second detonation to a different wing, maybe, or even like a parking lot, maybe.
Okay. So, a little after classes began around 8:30 in the morning, right? We're at his farm. There was smoke, there was fire, there was explosions. The buildings began to burn, the house, the barn, the outside buildings. He had wired his own property for destruction. Also not random. He arranged the farm so that the fire would spread throughout, and his entire life that he built there was going to be gone. Everything he could keep, he decided he would just destroy. Imagine one of your neighbors, right? You just look over, see the smoke. What do? You go help, right? That's what you do in a small town.
Right.
A barn fire is everybody's problem. House fire is too. You don't wait, you run. So they rush over to the property, and they were walking directly into another part of his plan. People tried to save the buildings. They tried to move things. They tried to understand where Nellie was. Because remember, Nellie was pretty sick. She had been in the hospital. But where is she? Because nobody knew yet. He was there. Andrew was there. And according to accounts that survived the disaster, when people arrived to help, he didn't behave like a man desperately trying to save his home. At one point, he reportedly warned a man near the property that he should get out of here. Then all of a sudden, Andrew left. With all this commotion, got into his truck and drove to the school. And this is where the timeline becomes almost unbearable, because the fire at the farm was not the main attack. It was part of his sick timing. It pulled the attention, right? It created confusion. It destroyed evidence. So everybody's rushing to his farm. And unfortunately, 8:45 that morning, the school exploded. There's no way to describe this moment gently. I mean, one second the north wing of the school existed, the next it was completely gone. Floors collapsed, walls came down. It just pure chaos, absolutely disgusting. And then, well, pure chaos. For people that were closest to the school, there was no time to process. I mean, the building was down. There were kids inside. You had to run to it. You had to try to help the kids. Again, that's Bath, right? People, they're running to it. Parents, farmers, neighbors, teachers, anybody that could get there and try to help. I mean, they're climbing through the wreckage. They're pulling the bricks apart. They're digging with their hands. Because, I mean, there's no modern emergency management system. There's no trauma center down the street. It's 1927 in a very rural place, right? The first rescuers were the people who just happened to be there and could get there first. They just knew there was kids under there and they had to do something. I mean, anything you could do. And then all of a sudden, the news traveled as quick as it could in 27. Hey, the school exploded. The school's down. There's kids inside. So parents started rolling in. I mean, could you imagine hearing that news today? Not having a phone, an alert system, social media, any of that. You get in whatever vehicle, you get on a horse, you do whatever you can, you get there. And then the scene that you see is just chaos. Where's my kid? Are they okay? What's going on? I mean, I couldn't imagine being a parent, being a kid, being a teen. I couldn't imagine being involved, right?
Right.
I mean, the stories from the rescuers, I mean, terrifying things, and then people had no idea. I mean, a brand new school blows up. Was it a boiler? Was it mechanical failure? Was there some kind of accident? Those are the natural thoughts. I can't imagine that in Bath in 27, they're going, who blew the school up, right?
Right.
So then all of a sudden, he shows up, right? The building's destroyed. The scene is pure chaos. And into that scene drives a man they know. It's him, right? Hey, school board treasurer. It's the guy that argued for our school. It's the man whose farm is building, and he's here, or burning. He's here, trying to help. At this point, doesn't overly look super suspicious, right?
Right.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, there's just so much more of this story. And we're right at that 30-minute mark. I'm going to make the choice to you, Meg. Do we keep rolling? We're about halfway through the notes, about halfway through the thing. Do we want to roll? Do we want to get into some more details? Or do we, I almost feel like it merits a part 2.
I think we should do a part 2.
We got to do a part 2 for here. Okay. So for any of you people that hate part 2s, it's hot. We've had a week. We're at the part 2. So we're going to stop it here.
Did you know how much explosive material he had stored up? Because I found it if you didn't.
How much?
over 1,000 pounds was stashed.
That's a lot.
Just to put it into perspective.
1,000 pounds over a year and a half.
Over 1,000.
That is ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Yeah, this story, terrible. If you want to hear more, next week, part 2. You ready for it?
Yeah.
All right. Again, we hate to do the part 2 to you. Life's busy. We're going to jump back into it. Part 2 coming next week. Come back, hear all the details. It gets crazier.
Oof.
It really does. So that's all we got. You got anything else?
Nope.
All right. We'll be back next week. Michigan, part 2. Bath, Michigan, part 2. All right. That's all I got.
Sounds good.
Cool. Let's get out of here. Bye-bye.
Bye.